Professor Dionisius is a fellow of the British Academy, which is the highest prestige award you can get in this field. So we're very kind of privileged to have him here at Exeter. His position here is the Qasimi Professor of Arabic Studies and Islamic Material Culture, which translates to he does lots of very cool projects on a variety of things, and has had many awards and grants, and been doing some really valuable work here for a while. He also has a very impressive and long career in the field. And that's why we've invited him here to share some of that with you, because I think it would be very interesting to see that trajectory as people starting out with a senior scholar here. Lots to share with us. So, Professor, what first attracted you to study the Middle East?
It all started back in the 1963, I think. I went to the movies as a young man, full of energy, dynamism, and lo and behold, this film was called Lawrence of Arabia. And all the people who acted in it are dead. But their spirit is alive. It's a great movie. I would like you to see it someday. The director, David Lean, quite famous, he died recently. Actually, it came out in 1962. I went to see it in 1963, and that sparked my interest in the desert. So I went home very excited, talking to my father. I told him, my son, what are you going to do in the desert? You're crazy, what are you talking about? No, I want to work, I want to do, whatever a young man romanticize and dreams. So I was a dreamer, but it was worth dreaming.
Yeah.
Especially Peter O'Toole.
Yeah.
I thought I was
blue
Peter
eyes.
O'Toole, blue eyes. So don't kill yourself. Lawrence, the real Lawrence, is not as handsome as Peter O'Toole.
No.
Yeah. And then, at the same time, I became a Jesuit. I don't know whether you know this society of Jesuits is a society of training priests, and I thought if I joined the Jesuits, I would see the world. And wasn't the reason why I became a Jesuit, to go to the desert. But as it happened, I had what they call the vocation to become a priest, but it didn't last for a long time. I spent 7 years studying philosophy and theology, during which time I was in Lebanon, during which time I was studying Arabic, classical Arabic and modern Arabic, and what they call the Jesuits Islamology. Today we call it Islamic studies. And this is how it started. But the Jesuits run till this very day the Université Saint-Joseph, Beirut, Lebanon, which is in big competition with the American University, and this is why the American University was created, to compete with the French University. Yeah. Catholic, Protestant.
Yeah.
That was the whole idea. And the Saint-Joseph, there were great Orientalists, Michel Allard. You wouldn't know them because they are in the French world unless you are from France. Henri Fleisch, Louis Touzet, René Lavenon, these are great Orientalists. Orientalists in the true sense, because the word Orientalist has faded out. We don't speak of Orientalists today, because Orientalist includes China and Japan and whatever. So I belong to this world, and it was during this time that I was given the methodology, the system of what to study and why to study, and to study the methodology was so important for me because it set off my interest, my life in the academia. The years I spent in Lebanon were in the 1960s. I believe many of you have not been born yet. And I was an eyewitness of places, of people, and life in general. You know, what I was fantasizing back home in my country, which is Malta, island of Malta between Sicily and Libya, it was different from the real life that I was then living in Lebanon. And these were the days when I spent 1 year in Egypt. You hear 3 words being echoed in your. These were the words of Jamal Abdel Nasser. Don't know if you know who he was. He was a giant figure who echoed 3 words: Al-Umma al-Wahda al-Arabiya. Al-Umma, the nation. Al-Wahda, the unity. Al-Arabiya, Arabness, Arabdom. And those were the 3 words that continued to echo. There were nights I couldn't sleep, the excitement of those days, because I used to go to Tahrir Square where all that late revolution, Arab Spring took place. And we used to shout and scream, Nasser, Nasser, Nasser. That became the spirit of the Middle East. We lived it alive. And that sparked again my interest to remain in this kind of life, study the Middle East. And I started sort of looking around of what to do then beyond living in the Middle East. Shall I go forward and study Arabic, Islamic studies properly or not?
Okay. And when exactly was it that you knew that you wanted to be?
I think it was in my first degree from Lebanon. It was in Arabic studies, Arabic and sort of classical Arabic and modern. At that point, I knew already, but it wasn't until it was reinforced by several factors, and one of the factors was the giant stature of Jamal Abdel Nasser. Meanwhile, after my first degree, I did a lot of sorts of jobs. You know, I worked in a chicken feed factory. I worked in the YMCA. I worked selling flowers. I worked in a paint factory. You know, I did all sorts of things. And they told me, what a waste of time. No, it was a very good time. Why? Because it helped me to communicate.
Oh, yeah.
Communication skills is one of the essential things of an undergraduate and postgraduate. We live in a cuckoo world sometimes, and this is protected by yourselves and by us in particular. And beyond there, the real world, we don't know it. We can't strike a conversation about tax credit or conversation on tell me, David Cameron or Barack Obama, because we don't read, we don't follow the news, we live in our own little world. So yes, that was an important time for me. The 1970s were in some way dull. This is the time where I finished my second degree in Rome and went to Toronto. And at that point in Toronto, something very interesting happened. 1970s, we saw the world of the Gulf, the oil booming, it was incredible. Even to the point that when I was a student doing my PhD in Toronto, we used to joke. I had a good friend, an Egyptian friend of mine, said we planned to dress like Gulf Arabs, with nice sunglasses, drive a limousine, a Thunderbird, those days, there were these big wardrobes in the street, and move into the administration office, speak to the president, we want to buy this university. But it was that's the image, and that was the reality, because then I ended up in Kuwait teaching there, a short contract, and I saw those booming years. But something happened in the 1970s, and I wonder what you are thinking. 1979. Boom! It came as an explosion. Iran, the revolution of Iran. Were you born at that time? No, not yet?
I was.
You were? Yeah. Okay, that changed academia. That changed our lives, the way we think about the Middle East. we didn't have, don't forget, we are still in the days of no mobile, no internet, we had television. There was still black and white television, these are different years. In the libraries, we didn't have the facilities we have today. Everything was by cards. And then go to the stacks and look. It was a good exercise because you discover other books than the one that you are on. But it was no more God bless America. No, it was God bless the world, because things were changing with the Gulf and Saudi and Oman. And we studied Arabic as a dead language. I studied Turkish and Farsi as a what do you call it? As a research language, a reading language, not beyond. And that's how we studied Arabic. But then, when this Iranian Revolution came, the 80s came, then Arabic started to become a living language, whereby we teach it, to speak it, to write it, to communicate. And that was a big difference. The other important thing that happened to me in this stage was my supervisor, Professor George Michael Wickens. He's dead now, but he was like my godfather, my second godfather. I'll tell you why in a minute. Who was my first godfather? George Michael Wickens was my supervisor. He was the one who let me do what I felt doing, and then come up with the goods and discuss things with him. He gave me that liberty and flexibility. Yeah. While I learned from him, he used to tell me, you are a shining star, not yet rising, but a shining star.
Already shining.
Already shining star. And one other thing he used to tell me, which I kept involved in all these years, was keep that antenna, going. In other words, let it pick up vibrations, let it pick up vibes, just always ready to find out what you could do. And and that's how true it was. He was, by the way, he was a man who was an ex-intelligence. He worked for MI5 or whatever it used to be in those days for 10 years and stationed in Kuwait. And he pushed me forward in thinking not only in my own discipline, but in thinking of different disciplines, and that became a great advantage in my academic life.
Okay, so you're already in academia at this point.
At this point, yes, and yes, I would say already I was converted to become an academic, but there was a risk.
Yeah.
Big risk, a calculated risk.
What risk?
The risk is that I could have failed. In the sense, failed, not the subject, but failed in the sense that I wouldn't have become an academic. I would have been a disaster. Because, you apply for jobs, and in those days, jobs, it wasn't easy to get. I knew a lot of PhD people in those days, in the 70s, who were taxi drivers. Yeah. Not necessarily in our discipline, but there was that risk. And the risk that I was ready to take. But
what was it that enabled you to? And what do you think? How did you succeed and not end up the cab driver?
I think determination is one, but also flexibility. I realized that if I'm going to stick with my own discipline, which was basically medieval studies, medieval Arabic, Islamic studies, i.e. classical Arabic, which was my discipline at the time, linguistics, or philology as we used to call it, I'm not going to go anywhere. So I was advised by my supervisor, start exploring modern Arabic, start finding how modern Arabic is being taught, how it's being used and develop those skills to teach it as a living language. And I did that. You know, I pursued it for 5-6 years. I got a job in Kuwait, and that sped up the flexibility to be able to teach that language, which I did for 10 years, no more, 10 years, almost 12 years in Leeds University when I got a job there to teach Arabic.
Of course. It sounds like your supervisor had a, was a very good one and had very good advice for you.
That's right. And I mean, you have to be ready to cry. He made me cry, that man. Literally, no? Because he was very tough. But in that toughness, there was something solid, makes you think.
It sounds like an excellent, like a good guy.
Yeah, I mean, I remember my father visiting me at one time in Toronto, and he said, come on, young man, come on, shake it.
Well,
you cry because the man is told you off because you haven't, what you have produced is rubbish, okay. learn from it, and he was right. I mean, he was a bit pedantic, he used to correct every line, every word almost, but it was worth it.
Of course, it's great to have that impact.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, this is obviously a very different time that you started out in the field, so I wanted to ask you what you think the differences you experienced in preparing yourself for an academic career were now as compared to then.
Absolutely. I think this flexibility is one thing that I would tell you, to be ready to do more than what actually you are doing and what you are studying. Because if you stick with one area, there might be the danger that you won't find what you are looking for. So that's one thing. But I think that when I was in Leeds, which I spent 22 years there, that I realized that I need to go further, with the urgent need to go further than my philology or linguistic studies that I was doing. I was doing a very boring subject, by the way. It was theoretical linguistics, which is, had I stayed in that discipline, by now probably I would be dead with boredom. But I used the language contact. I used language as a tool for other things. And since my thesis, or as they call it in Canada, was a dissertation, was on material culture. Material culture is the study of touch, tangible culture. Okay? Table, I'm doing this. Table, touch, stone, building, objects that you buy, and so on and so forth, or you make. That's material culture. And I became interested in the sea, the ship, the people, the skills, the knowledge of those people who sail when I was in Kuwait. Because in Kuwait, I used to go stroll on the Corniche, what they call Corniche, the sort of seaside resort. And I used to see these beautiful ships, all with sails, sailing towards sunrise, going out to sea to fish or trading with Iran and so on. The beauty, you can't imagine, they are called dhows. And it struck me that, hey, what a beautiful world. And I was looking behind me, the high-rises of Kuwait. What a contrast. This is what the oil has done. These buildings, the high-rises, etc., and this vanishing world disappearing. And I said, I felt literally a call telling me, go out and study this Tao. Study the people who are dying out. Study the pearl divers who use these boats, to dive and get the oyster shells. Study the sailors who traded with India, East Africa, Red Sea, in the sort of Western Indian Ocean world. And I created myself in a field called ethnography.
Yes.
I didn't get the training, but I trained myself. And I'm in a position now to tell you what ethnography is. Maritime ethnography. This is what I do. And that's how I opened up not only language contact, communication with people, telling me about these beautiful dhows, telling me the terminology, how to build them, etc., how to sail them using the stars to navigate, and so on and so forth. But I also used history. I lived with historians. I traveled with historians to know how history, both intellectual history and social, commercial, what do you call it, cultural history, works with my studies. I even lived with archaeologists, camping with them while they are digging and looking for finds and so on. And also people in art history, in iconography and so on. And it's this multidisciplinarity is what helped me and made me what I am today.
Yeah.
And published.
So a
to this
combination of passion and flexibility.
And
I think that's really important,
yeah.
because I guess for early career researchers, finishing their PhD or postdoc and then looking to find employment, is the ability. Sometimes it's the ability to present yourself or see how your subject actually feeds into another one, or be flexible.
Absolutely.
Do you think it's easier for people now, or when you set out on an academic career now?
Yeah, absolutely. In my days there was nothing. You have to go out yourself and search, that world of academia or that world of whatever you wanted to become. Create yourself. There was nobody to advise. Yeah, there was something starting in my days, how to write a CV, I remember. That was good. So a lot of people don't know how to write it, but the presentation is important. And this is why I've sat on these committees whereby people come and don't know how to present themselves, mentally and physically. Especially clarity, when speaking, you don't want to be a footballer, I go, oh yeah. As far as I'm concerned, you are out. Thank you very much. You are going to bore everybody. Yes. Your question is, there wasn't what you have today. You are really.
Today we have a whole lot of structures and ready-made parts, but it's still very tough, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
A kind of lack of, but there's very few openings, and I guess it's being ready to pounce.
But you have a greater opportunity to be prepared. This is one of them. This seminar, thanks to Dr. Tina, it's just brilliant. It's an opportunity that we talk to each other and say, God, I'm doing this, and I don't know, whether, Yes, and of course you have got your own network. Louise Hasty is talking about Christmas. Christmas is a great organization whereby it puts you in contact with academia. God, there was nothing.
You're working on your own.
You have to work on your own and work your own way.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest difference is what training to become an academic. That's what you are doing. You are training. This is why you are postgraduate. Postgraduate, you are sort of preparing yourself mentally to get into that world of reading and writing, but not only that, into the world of impact, of quality. There's a big competition outside there, and I think this is where you are in that stage. You're not undergraduate. You have matured into a further stage, MA and Phil, PhD, DPhil. And it is these moments of thinking, oh my dear, what am I going to do? One other thing is a word that I used to be taught by my supervisor is Dionisius. You have to be a Weltanschauung. What the hell is he talking?
A worldview.
A worldview. You cannot sit there and think about Toronto. I mean, a lot of Torontonians, they think that the world is. That's it. That doesn't go beyond Toronto, and that's it. You know, if you tell them where is London, they think it's in Alaska. I'm exaggerating, but there is some truth over there. So yes, this Weltanschauung. Look it up in your Google search. We didn't have Google search in my days. You know, I mean, everything is cut and paste. Okay. We typed. You make a mistake, start all over again. Do a mistake in the last line, start all over again. Typing your word, your thesis.
Well, there must be there are benefits, and there are drawbacks and benefits to the way you do research. I guess if you're in the library and you have to look up every single thing, you can't just find the information. Then when you go to that shelf, you find all the other books.
Absolutely.
Whereas our information is so targeted, I look for something and I find it.
Exactly. And sometimes it's limited. While that one, the old way, and you can still do it. It's looking for something and browsing.
Yeah, browsing.
And the browsing is important because God, look at this book, that's interesting. I never thought, wow, this might help me for my. When you sit down and read that stupid machine in front of you, you might end up A, getting a headache, B, you might not get what you want. Plus, you get so tired that a lot of it could end up passing through your minds. We talked about flexibility, and the last point is institutions. You hear very often academics tell you, I have done my undergraduate degree in the University of London, I got my MA in the University of London, and I PhD in London. Wow, very impressive. You are a London boy, University of London, great man. Yes, it's good, but it would be even greater if you change institutions. If you look around, shop around and find out, because sometimes, being with the same people, you can't open those horizons, the Weltanschauung. So, if you have got an opportunity, and this is where you have never to give up, apply for fellowships, scholarships, whatever, and try to move on. It's healthier.
Has anybody got any questions for the professor?
You talked about your first godfather.
My first, thank you, I got excited. My first godfather, Carmelo, he was an assistant chemist to my father at the pharmacy, but he was a Weltanschauung in another sense. He was a man of material culture. He taught me carpentry. He taught me a lot of things, how things are built, how they are made, what kind of things, the details. He loved the material culture, and he was my real godfather, not in the spiritual sense, but in the sense because when I was confirmed, he was my man who swore that if something ever happened to me, he would look after me, but he died now. So 2 godfathers died. So I'm ready to be your godfather too.
Is there any other questions for the professor? Yes, please.
What is ethnography in material culture?
Ethnography is good point. Yeah, I didn't expand on that. Ethnography is basically going out in the field. It's fieldwork, gathering data on the tangible and intangible culture. Tangible, intangible is knowledge, skills. Gathering data from people Eh? You record people, you document things, and then you try to find a common hypothesis, why they are doing this, why they are doing that, and what is this, and what is that, and so on. That's called ethnography. It's actually field work. It helps to know the target language. If you are dealing with Arabic, the Arab world, it's good to know Arabic, because otherwise you end up with which loses a lot of the original, especially your questions.
You were talking about flexibility and how it's important, to have wide horizons. But I feel it that every time I'm trying to get outside of my comfort zone. So, for example, my PhD is in one topic, but I'm interested in something slightly different, and I want to pursue both. I feel like I'm being discouraged by my advisor, by other professors who know you should focus on one thing and be really good at that. If you do more than one thing, you're not going to get anywhere. And how would you comment on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, follow what your advisor said. I won't come in between. But yes, that's one way to look at it, yes. But as much as their advice is good, or his advice or her advice is good, and there's also that advice that it wouldn't hurt. You're talking of another discipline, no?
But more or less, it's within, so for example, my PhD is on Islamic economics. But at the same time, I'm very interested in religious conversion, and I did some research in this field. And they are not exactly very connected. They still have to do with Islam, but they're not really connected. So I've been having some troubles, for example, getting scholarships to do one, because it's not directly connected with my PhD, and technically, apparently, I'm not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, if things that are not connected, we're talking of not connected directly, but there's always connection with economics. Of course, economics is our life. It's connected with everything, including what I studied. But it's working. What I'm talking about is working around and looking at other areas which feed in or feed out. Do you follow me?
I think so.
Yeah, yes, you need to specialize in something. Mine is maritime studies, ethnography and language contact. But the wider you look at this, the stronger your research, your views, your horizons be. That's what I would say. And it helps you thinking laterally and in different ways. It's a bit theoretical what I'm saying, but there are. That's why today I feel I'm more publishing with other people, co-author with the last 2 articles with 4 people, because I find that sharing our ideas from different disciplines makes it a much stronger, and especially in my field. It depends, of course, what you're doing, because if you're defining something very, very precise, probably better stick with one discipline. But Weltanschauung.
Yes, yeah, being a broad view.
Broader view, yeah.
Take one more question. Yeah.
So actually, you talked about ethnography and talking to people. I had worked as an oral historian in Kashmir, and I felt that what people say, how far you depend upon their memory, because sometimes memory, this is very delicate. What they say might not be true. They feel that that's true, but actually that might not be true.
Absolutely. You're right. You hit the nail on its head. Absolutely. Yes. Well, as an ethnographer, and you go out there, you have got a sort of a plan of whom you are going to know. Usually it's good to have males and females, if you can. In my case, it's males. And different ages and different professions. And especially with old people, you have to allow a margin for fading memory. So what you do with fading memory is you go to more than one person. I go to X and then I go to Y, Z, asking the same questions, okay? And sometimes if that person is very interesting, you go back and ask the same thing but in different ways. So you develop this skill, but what you are saying is that there is always that danger. You know, that's why historians, that hide behind the shelves, so those, they don't like people like us in the sense, oral history, wow. But I think we need both. We need that history